I never thought that at my age, something could change so dramatically. 50 years old seems like an age when everything has already been tried, felt, and lived through. The kids have grown up, the career is settled, and even the grandchildren are bringing joy with their smiles. But one evening, as I sat in my chair with a cup of tea, I suddenly realized something important had been overlooked. Something that belonged only to me. Something I was even afraid to think about. It was an evening like any other. My husband Oliver was watching TV, and I was flipping through the pages of a book, trying to find answers to questions I hadn't even dared to ask myself. I felt like something had disappeared between us. Not love, no. Love was still there, quiet and calm, like a warm blanket on a cold evening. But the spark, the one that used to light up our eyes, had faded. Intimacy had become routine, predictable, even a little boring. I remembered how, in our youth, we used to laugh, experiment, and explore each other. But over time, life took over. Work, kids, daily routines. We stopped talking about our desires, about what excited us. And now, with the kids grown and life finally slowing down, I felt it was time to reclaim something important, something that belonged only to us. I didn't know how to start this conversation, how to tell Oliver that I wanted more, that I wanted to feel like a woman again, not just a wife, mother, or grandmother. I was afraid he wouldn't understand, that he'd react with surprise or even push my ideas away. But something inside me kept reminding me, if not now, then when? That evening, I gathered my courage. I walked over to Oliver, took his hand, and said, "Do you remember how we used to?" He looked at me with mild surprise, but in his eyes I saw a spark. The same one I had been searching for. We started talking. At first, hesitantly, then more openly. I told him about my fantasies, about wanting to try something new. I remembered how, early in our relationship, we had joked about role-playing. Back then, it was just a playful idea, but now I felt it could become a reality. I imagined us dressing up in characters we liked, playing roles that would make us feel free, bold, even a little forbidden. I also remembered reading about intimate toys and their impact on closeness in relationships. The idea seemed daring but exciting. I imagined us choosing something elegant, delicate, something that would enhance our connection rather than make it mechanical. I wanted to feel special, desired, and I knew this could be the start of something new. To my surprise, he not only supported me, but also shared his own thoughts. It turned out he wanted changes too, but didn't know how to start the conversation. He said he liked the idea of role-playing and had long dreamed of trying something like that. We promised each other to be open, to not be afraid to talk about our desires. And that's when I realized, age isn't the end. It's a new beginning. The beginning of something exciting, something we couldn't even imagine yet. That evening became a turning point for both of us. After our first honest conversation, I felt like an invisible weight had been lifted off me. We sat on the couch, holding each other, and talked about things we hadn't dared to mention before. Oliver admitted that he also wanted more, but was afraid I wouldn't support his ideas. It turned out we had both been dreaming of reviving our relationship, but neither of us had dared to take the first step. We started small. First, we discussed what we both wanted to try. I remembered reading about intimate toys and their impact on closeness in relationships. The idea seemed daring but exciting. Oliver supported me, saying it could be an interesting experience. We decided to start with that. The next day, I spent a few hours on the computer, exploring different options. I wanted to find something elegant, delicate, something that would enhance our connection without making it mechanical. I settled on a few models that seemed perfect. The first was a small vibrator shaped like a feather. It was made of soft silicone, had several vibration modes, and looked so aesthetic that it didn't even seem overtly sexual. The second was a set of 2 toys, one for me and one for Oliver. They could work synchronously, which I found very romantic. And the third was a classic vibrating ring that, as I read, could be used during intimacy to enhance sensations for both of us. When I showed Oliver the options, he smiled and said, "Let's try it." Why limit ourselves if it can bring us joy? We decided to order all three to try different options and see what worked best for us. When the toys arrived, I felt a slight excitement. It was like we were going on a first date. I even put on my favorite nightgown, which I hadn't worn in a long time, and lit candles to create a special atmosphere. Oliver supported my ideas, and together we prepared for our little experiment. We started with the feather. Its gentle vibrations made me feel relaxed, yet aroused. Oliver controlled the toy, and I could feel his passion for me growing with every moment. Then we tried the set of 2 toys. They worked synchronously, and it felt like we were connected even at a distance. Finally, we tried the ring. It added new sensations during intimacy, and I felt our bond growing stronger. As we began, I felt my body relax and my mind free itself from everyday thoughts. We laughed, shared our impressions, and it felt like we were rediscovering each other. The toys were just tools that helped us feel closer, but the most important thing was our willingness to be open and explore something new together. After that first evening with the intimate toy, I felt something inside me change. I became more confident, more open to new experiences. But most importantly, I realized that experimenting in our intimate life could be not only exciting, but also deeply connecting. So when Oliver suggested trying something new, I happily agreed. This time, we decided to go further. After a few conversations, we came up with the idea of trying role-playing. At first, the idea seemed a little strange, even funny, imagining myself as someone else. It felt like something out of a movie, but why not? If it could bring us joy and new emotions, why not give it a try? We decided to start with something simple. Oliver suggested a scenario where I played the role of an experienced seductress, and he played a man trying to resist my charms. At first, I laughed as we discussed the details, but then I realized it could actually be fun. We decided to prepare for this experiment as thoroughly as possible. I spent a few days thinking about my character. I wanted to feel truly special, so I chose a favorite dress that accentuated my curves and added light makeup and perfume to complete the look. Oliver also took it seriously. He wore a suit he hadn't worn in a long time, and even brought home a wine glass to set the mood. When the evening came, I felt a slight excitement. We started with a shared dinner, trying to stay in character. At first, it felt a little awkward, but then I felt something inside me open up. I played my role, and it allowed me to feel freer, bolder. Oliver also played his part, and it felt like we were meeting each other for the first time. We decided to act out a scene where I was a mysterious woman meeting Oliver at a bar. He played the role of a man trying to resist my charms. We laughed as I tried to seduce him, and he pretended to resist. But then the atmosphere became more intense, and I felt how our roles were helping us uncover new sides of our closeness. When we moved to the more intimate part of the evening, I felt how our roles were helping us explore new dimensions of our connection. We laughed, shared emotions, and it was just as thrilling as our first experiment. But the most important thing was our willingness to be open and explore something new together. After that evening of role-playing, I felt something inside me shift. It wasn't just physical pleasure, but also a deep emotional release. I felt more confident, more alive. And most importantly, I realized that our relationship with Oliver had reached a new level. We had become closer than ever before. The next morning, we woke up together, and I felt our bond had grown even stronger. We laughed as we recalled moments from the previous evening, and it felt like we had discovered a new side of our shared life. Oliver said he felt the same, and it made me smile. We decided to keep experimenting. We started talking more often about our desires, sharing fantasies, and planning new experiments. And every time we took another step forward, I felt our life becoming brighter and our relationship deeper. After all our experiments and new discoveries, I started thinking about how our experience could inspire others. How often do people over 50 think that the most exciting part of life is behind them? That intimacy, passion, and new experiences are things of the past. But our experience showed that this isn't true at all. I started sharing my thoughts with close friends. At first, they were surprised, even a little embarrassed by the topic. But then when I told them about our experiments, about how Oliver and I had discovered new sides of our closeness, They started asking questions. I could see a spark of interest in their eyes. They began to realize that age isn't a barrier to happiness. One time, I even organized a small gathering with my friends, where we discussed the topic of intimacy after 50. I shared our experiments, how we used toys, played roles, and how it brought us closer. My friends laughed, asked questions, but most importantly, they started thinking about how their lives could become brighter too. I realized that many women my age are simply afraid to talk about their desires. They think it's abnormal or unacceptable. But I tried to explain to them that intimacy is a natural part of life, and it shouldn't disappear with age. On the contrary, it's a time when you can allow yourself to be bolder, more open, and most importantly, happier. My friend Natalie, who had long believed that her intimate life ended with menopause, decided to talk to her husband after our conversation. They started small, with honest conversations about their desires. Then they tried toys, and Natalie admitted that she felt like a woman again. Her story inspired me even more. I realized that our experience wasn't just about us. It was about how we could help others find happiness in their relationships. It was about showing that age isn't a barrier but an opportunity to be bolder, more open, and most importantly, happier. And now, as I look at our life, I feel like we're just at the beginning of our journey. We've discovered new sides of our closeness, and it has made our life brighter. But most importantly, we've realized that age isn't the end. It's a new beginning, the beginning of something exciting, something we can't even imagine yet. Have you ever experienced a turning point in your relationship? How do you keep the spark alive after years together? Share your stories and thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Let's inspire each other to embrace new beginnings, no matter our age.